Hey everyone, welcome to the video. Let's go over the 8-game NBA slate for today on Draftkings. But before we go any further in this video, in the comments section below, I am running a contest on today's slate. And you're going to be answering a question that I have in the comment section. So, and that question is, how many Draftkings points, not FanDuel or Fantasy Draft, Yahoo, whatever, how many Draftkings points do you think Zion Williamson scores on tonight's slate? They have a 247.5 point over-under in that game with a near 130 point implied team total for the Pelicans. So this should be a pretty awesome game for fantasy purpose. So comments below, how many points or fantasy points do you think Zion Williamson scores on tonight's slate? You got to tell me before lock happens at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And if your comment says edited, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to trust you if you didn't change the score after the game started. So just lock it in before 7 p.m. Eastern time. And if you happen to be the closest to the exact score, or if you happen to guess the exact score, I will give you a free week of NBA or NASCAR on my Patreon. It's your picking. So if you happen to win, just let me know. And then just DM me on Twitter or whatever, and we'll figure something out. So yeah, comments below, like I said, how many fantasy points you think Zion scores, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So before we continue even more, if you guys could just leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Really helps me out. Really appreciate it. You also follow me over on Twitter. I'm at ChrisPennell16, and if you want to support me on Patreon, it's much appreciated. You can get access to any of my extra NBA content that I put out every single day, or my NASCAR content that I put out every single week, and I'm very proud of my NASCAR content. I think we're doing a pretty darn good job to start the season. I've seen a lot of people having success in the Discord chat, and yeah, it's been a pretty good season. Even if you have no idea about anything about NASCAR, even if the only thing you know is that they turn left a whole bunch of times on the track, I pretty much break down the strategy, and I do my projections, my data sheet, a whole bunch of stuff. I write an article every single week breaking down strategy and some of my favorite plays and whatnot. So even if you have no idea about anything about NASCAR, it's my best DFS sport. So if you want to try it out, you certainly can. And then I also have my NBA every single night. And then MLB's coming up, I believe March 26th opening day, and I love baseball. I have a huge data sheet for that. I'm going to be doing a whole bunch of stuff for baseball, so just some stuff to keep your eye out for. And if you, like I said, if you're interested, links in the description below for my Patreon. And I think that's enough plugging. Let's get into today's video. So up top, we got LeBron. He comes in at 11,400. So this is an interesting situation, and I think this whole slate's interesting because there's a lot of interesting situations because there's a lot of injury news. There's a lot of potential injury news dealing with the Toronto Raptors. We also have the Boston Celtics dealing with Jason Tatum being questionable. We have Kemba Walker on a minutes limit. And then with the Lakers, speaking of LeBron, we have Anthony Davis as a true questionable call. I know it usually just has the questionable tag and he's listed as probable. Well, he missed the last game, and he was a surprise scratch. I know those of you on FanDuel probably got screwed, but on DraftKings you could pivot off of him. But yeah, if Anthony Davis is out, we have to like LeBron here, despite this high price tag, and what would be perceived as a tough matchup versus Philly. But also know that Philly's missing their entire roster at this point. They don't have Josh Richardson, I believe it's with a concussion. Then they don't have Ben Simmons, and they don't have Joel Embiid in this game. So you got guys like Furkan Korkmaz on the floor. I almost said the mat, it's like it's wrestling. On the floor, you got Alec Burks, Glenn Robinson, Shake Milton, who's apparently a god, and Al Horford, Tobias Harris. So not the scariest defensive unit in the world now, as it would be with all those other guys. So I don't mind the matchup versus Philly. I mean, if you look at the numbers, yeah, it's going to be pretty scary. They're one of the best defensive teams in the league. I believe they're like third, if I remember correct, or first, actually, yeah, first. Second versus point guard, sixth versus small forwards. But like I said, there's a lot of injuries, so that shakes things up. And I mean, if Anthony Davis is out, man, there's so much value on this slate. I think we can pretty easily fit in LeBron. I mean, his numbers on the season are strong: 1.54 points per 31.5% usage rate. If AD misses, he's near 1.7 points per minute with a closer to a 40% usage rate. So we're going to have to keep our eyes out for the Anthony Davis news. If he ends up playing, I mean, 11,400 is a little bit steep for LeBron, especially with a 13.5 point spread, which I could definitely see this game getting out of hand as the Lakers are playing at home when they're going up against a Philly squad whose best player is like Shake Milton. I mean, I know Tobias Harris is there, but Shake Milton's been playing him out of his mind. So yeah, I like LeBron if Anthony Davis is out. If Anthony Davis is in, I don't know, 11,400 might be a bit much, but I will say there's a ton of value on this slate, so I don't really think it'd be a problem. So just personal preference. If you want to go all the way up top for LeBron, I wouldn't have any problems with it. Bradley Beal, he comes in at 10,400. He just continues this hot stretch of games. The guy is balling out. I believe his last game was at 61 fantasy points, and he just continues to get the job done. Now he gets a good matchup as a guard guard/forward versus Sacramento, who just sucks defensively versus guard/forwards. They're great versus big men, but when it comes to guards and small forwards, they struggle a bit. And we have a 232.5 point total over/under here. 113.5 implied team total for the Wizards and only a 5.5 point spread. So this should be a pretty solid game for fantasy purposes. If you look at the DVP chart, Sacramento, they do rank 22nd versus shooting guards and 16th versus small forwards. So this is a pretty good matchup for Bradley Beal. His numbers are going to be strong all season. He is the entire offense for the Washington Wizards. He's at 1.34 points per minute with a 34.2% usage rate. Bradley Beal, I think he's a pretty solid option. I mean, so if Anthony Davis is in, you could certainly make the case for Bradley Beal being the best bet up on this slate. So again, just gonna have to keep our eyes out for the injury news because you guys know how hectic injury news can get for the NBA. I try my best to break it all down here, but news that comes out can definitely throw a wrench in things throughout the day. Let's see, Nikola Jokic, he comes in at 9,400. He had an amazing game last time out. I believe it was versus the Raptors. I think he had 67 fantasy points, something like that. Ended up playing very, very well, and he gets a good matchup versus Golden State. Now, the only problem I have with Jokic is that there's a 15-point spread here, and they're playing at home versus, just being honest, a trash Golden State squad. I mean, they suck. So that's the only problem. If this game blows out, he might not get that fourth quarter run, and if he doesn't get fourth quarter run at 9,400, it's pretty much GG for your lineup, especially for 9,400. But let's just say he gets his full minutes. I don't mind it because it's a big pace-up spot for the Nuggets, as you can see, 28th to 11th. On the season, he's at 1.44 points per minute, 26.9% usage rate. He's got triple-double upside every single night. What's he averaging? 10 rebounds, 6.8 assists, 20 points. Yeah, he's got 20-point triple-double upside every single night. So Jokic, I think he's fine in tournaments. Not going to get there in cash games with that big spread because I do have concerns about that. D'Lo, so this is the first guy we can talk about in, I think, the highest total game of the season. I think the Rockets and Pelicans were at 245 earlier in the year, I want to say. But 247, I'm pretty sure this is the highest I've seen, unless I missed it on like a Sunday, but I really don't care about basketball too much. But I don't know. But yeah, I definitely like this game for sure. I mean, one exposure to it, it's going to be a lot of points scored here. Problem is it's an 11.5 point spread, but if they can keep this game close, I mean, we won exposure here for sure. And Minnesota, they are coming into the dogs here, so if they want to keep this game close and you're running a whole bunch of Pelicans in your lineup, it might make sense to make D'Lo your stud of the night and just run it back and just hope that D'Lo keeps this game close, gets 50, 60 fantasy points, and then your Pelicans should all smash too if this game stays close. So D'Lo, I think he's an amazing GPP play. Could you play him in cash games? You could. You certainly could. But yeah, one exposure to this game. Both teams are top 3 in pace of play. This game's going to be a track meet. Both teams don't play defense. They're third in pace of play, while New Orleans is second. On the year, he's at 1.27 points per minute with a 31.5% usage rate. But again, a lot of those numbers were on Golden State. You move him over to Minnesota and you take Cat off the court, it's pretty much him running the show. Him, Malik Beasley, and a couple of other guys. So D'Lo certainly have interest. I mean, I think he's a very, very, very strong GPP play, and you could get away with him in cash games as well. So don't mind Russell at all. Just spill over my computer. Pascal Siakam, 8,700. So I have him listed here in case Serge Ibaka misses this game. But if Ibaka plays, I will pass at this price tag because I'd just rather play D'Lo in that elite game environment. But if Ibaka's out, I like Siakam quite a bit because obviously he's going to get a bump. He's over a 30% usage rate if that's the case, around 1.2 points per minute. On the years at 1.19, I believe it goes to about 1.25, something like that. So don't mind Siakam here. It's going to be a pretty decent pace game. Raptors are 13th in pace of play, while the Suns are 10th. So do like that. Only a 3.5 point spread is pretty solid as well. We know Phoenix struggles down low versus big men. On the season, they rank 14th versus power forwards, 18th versus centers. They've been getting a little bit better, but still not the best defensive team in the world. So Siakam, if Ibaka happens to miss and Van Vliet misses, yeah, I certainly have some interest, and I'm sorry my neck's really, really sore for some reason, so if you see me just going like that, it just hurts really bad, so. Alright, anyway. Let's see. De'Aaron Fox, he comes in 8K. I feel like I recommend De'Aaron Fox way too much, because he just never really hits value. But here we are again. I like De'Aaron Fox, so just get ready for 35 fantasy points again and disappointment, but I like him versus Washington, and it's going to be a good game environment. I believe it should probably be the second best game For DFS purposes, 232.5. I mean, obviously it's not 247.5, but I don't see another game that would hit that. Maybe Toronto Phoenix will. But other than that, I think this is going to be the second highest total game on the slate. So yeah, we definitely want exposure to it. And Fox, he's listed as probable. I know he has a little bit of an injury designation, but he should be good to go. And pace up spot for the Kings. They're 21st in pace of play. Washington is 6th, and they are trash defensively. They rank, third worst? Yeah, third worst on the season. 27 versus point guard, so this is an elite matchup for De'Aaron Fox. On the year, he's at 1.2 points per minute with a 29.5% usage rate. I think De'Aaron Fox is a pretty solid play in cash and tournaments. Maybe better suited for tournaments because he can be very up or down. He doesn't like to hit value too often, but I think you get away with him in both formats. So now we're going to start our run of the Pelicans. We have 4 Pelicans in the next 5 players we're going to talk about. And if you're in the starting lineup for the Pelicans, you're on this sheet because, like I said, there's a 247.5 point over-under. Lots of points are going to be scored in this game, and I want pieces to it. So the first guy, most expensive, is Drew. And the good thing is, you can easily stack this game because Pelicans, some of these guys are like 10K. Their highest expensive guy is 7,900. And the highest expensive guy in the Minnesota game is 9K. You can easily game stack this up because there's plenty of value. So I think that might be a popular way to go, and I think it might be a smarter way to go. Now, it's hard for all these Pelicans to hit value just because they're all, they have high usage rates. They're, it's hard for them all to go off, but, at the 247.5 point over-under, it could happen. But yeah, Drew Holiday is the first guy we're going to talk about. 7,900. Again, I'm not going to keep repeating this. High total, fast-paced game. You guys get the idea. But on the season, he's at 1.14 points per minute, a 24.9% usage rate. Hit over to the DVP chart. Minnesota does rank 24th versus point guards and 25th versus shooting guards. So, yeah. Drew Holiday, obviously a good play. Brandon Ingram, he might be my favorite play from all the Pelicans. Him or Zion, because I think they're both pretty fairly priced. But yeah, I like playing Ingram. I feel like I played him a ton this season, which obviously has been a good thing because he's been very, very good. And I still like his price tag at 7,800. Do I wish he was still in that low 7K range? Yes, but that's kind of just like stealing. He should never be that low. 7,800 makes you think about it a little bit, but I still think he's fine. On the year, he's at 1.23 points per minute, 28.6% usage rate. DVP chart, they rank 25th versus small forwards, 24th versus power forwards. So Ingram, obviously a good play. Absolutely love him. Zion Williamson, 7,700, guy in the contest today. I think he's going to have a pretty good game. I think he's fairly priced at 7,700. Actually, he seemed a little bit too low in my opinion. And his numbers are all strong, and he's going to play similar minutes to Brandon Ingram. And on the year, he's at 1.26 points per minute, which is 0.3 better than Ingram, and 31.2% usage rate, which is 3% higher than Ingram. So I think they're both awesome plays, but I really like the price on Zion. I think it's, he's got 40, 50 point upside. If this game stays close, I think he can hit 50 fantasy points. Just depends on if this game stays close, but only 11 point spread. I think D'Lo can get the job done and, keep this competitive for us to hit value in fantasy purposes. So Zion, I think he's an excellent play in tournaments. You could also play him in cash games as well. DeMar DeRozan, he did not have the greatest game last night. I think he only scored 10 real life points. I think he had 7 boards and 5 assists, so salvaged his day a little bit. But he struggled in a tough matchup versus the Pacers. But I like him to bounce back here. I believe LaMarcus Aldridge is listed as doubtful. I think they listed him as doubtful. I'm not expecting him to play in this game. I think they said he's not. I just don't remember off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure he's not going to play. And again, if that's the case, on the year, he's at 1.14 with a 27% usage rate. You take him off the court, he's over a 30% usage rate and 1.24 points per minute. So DeRozan 7,400. Bad game last time out, so I don't expect people to go back to the well as much as you would think. But like the matchup versus Charlotte, they're not a great defensive team in the slightest. 19th versus shooting guards, 15th versus small forwards. So DeMar DeRozan, he's back on my radar from last night. Lonzo Ball, he had a 50-point fantasy outing last time out. 7,300. It's a bit expensive, but again, just give me any Pelicans that I can get in my lineup. And on the season, Lonzo's been about a point per minute guy, 1.03 points per minute, lower usage rate, but he does a little bit of everything in the stat sheet, which makes him pretty safe because he's not just scoring reliant. But when he's scoring, that's when he can hit those 50, 60-point fantasy games. So Lonzo, I think he's fine in tournaments, probably not going to get there in cash games. Jaylen Brown, he comes in at 7,100. So I have him listed here in case Jason Tatum misses this game because he is listed as questionable with an illness. He did not participate in practice yesterday. We'll see if he ends up playing. It seems like whenever these guys are sick, they just don't end up playing. I don't know, but Jason Tatum's been on absolute fire, so maybe he doesn't want to sit, continues the hot streak. But If he sits, you could look Gordon Hayward's way too. I'm just not totally confident Tatum does sit, so I just threw Brown in here because I like this price and I like the matchup versus Brooklyn. Fast-paced game environment, or I should say up-tempo matchup for the Celtics. Going up against Brooklyn, one of the faster-paced teams in the league. They're ninth in pace of play. On the year, 1.01 points per minute, 24.7% usage rate. If you take Tatum off the court, obviously those numbers are going to go up for Jaylen Brown. So even though it seems a bit expensive at 7,100, I still think he's a pretty solid option. Fred VanVleet, again, he's another guy that's questionable. If he happens to miss, we can up Norman Powell and OG Anunoby, who scored 60 fantasy points last game, which is absolutely insane. But I don't know. I feel like VanVleet's going to play in this game. I mean, there's nothing official, but I'm just getting a hunch that he will play. I mean, he's had, a day of rest on Sunday. It was Sunday they played. I think it was. No. Yes, it was Sunday they played because one day of rest would be Monday off. So I think he's going to be good to go. And I like the matchup versus Phoenix and also really like the price for VanVleet. He's more of a 7K kind of guy. So a 6,600 is just a bit too cheap here. Only a 3.5 point spread. I like the game environment here. Both teams are near top 10 in pace of play. And on the season, he's been about a point per minute guy. He's going to probably get around 35 minutes if he's good to go. And I'll take 35 to 40 fantasy points out of Fred VanVleet at that price tag. And we know Phoenix struggles versus guards, 20th versus shooting guards. So but Fred VanVleet, I think he's a pretty solid option. Steven Adams, he comes in at 6,200. Earlier in the year, he had a 50-point fantasy game versus this Clippers team. And they're not the worst defensive team in the world, but they struggle in one spot mightily, and that's centers. I mean, they really struggle versus centers. They rank 22nd versus the position. That's 8th worst. I mean, they suck versus centers. So if you're going to target the Clippers in one area, it's going to be with big men. So Steven Adams, I don't hate it. I don't think anyone's going to play him at all. Like anyone, I don't really see a reason why you would want to play him over a lot of these guys. But that's what makes him a solid GPP play, and he's been pretty good point per minute wise this season. He's at 1.11 point per minute. So Adams, he's going to get around 30 minutes if he's playing well. I think he's a pretty solid play, and my jaw is about to fall off. I'm thankful we don't have too many guys to talk about left, but man, I don't know. Okay. Anyway, Terry Rozier, he comes in at 6,100. So Devontae Graham is expected to sit in this game, and we know Malik Monk got hit with the suspension for illegal drug substance, which obviously was not working. So, I mean, if you're going to cheat, do it right, I guess. Man. But yeah, Rozier, I mean, I'm not saying he was terrible, but I just remember the one night before he got busted with it. He sucked. He sucked so bad. But yeah, Terry Rozier, 3,600. 6,100. If he was 3,600, we're locking him in for sure. 6,100, I still have a lot of interest because he's going to play all the minutes he can handle. I mean, there's a lot of minutes to go around for the guards. I expect Terry Rozier to get a lot of minutes. Caleb Martin, even Jalen McDaniels should get some run as well. But yeah, I like Rozier. If you take all those guys off the court, he's over a point per minute guy with about a 30% usage rate, and that's pretty strong. And if you look at his regular numbers on the season, it's at 0.93 and 23, so he gets about a 7% usage rate bump and about a 0.15 point per minute boost. So don't mind Terry Rozier at all. I think he's a solid option and a good matchup versus San Antonio. We know they struggle versus guards, ranking 22nd versus each guard position. So pretty good matchup for Terry Rozier. Serge Ibaka, last time I played the guy, it was the worst game I've ever seen in my life from a basketball player. He sucked. It was terrible. But I'm willing to forgive him if he's good to go. I believe a couple weeks ago, I played Serge Ibaka before the All-Star break. I want to say it was the game before the All-Star break. Not the two-gamer slate, but the game before that. He went off versus this Phoenix team. If I remember correctly, he went off. And 6,100 is not a bad price tag. I mean, I don't expect him to play as bad as he did in the last game. And I know he's missed the last couple of games, but he'll be fresh, good to go. Should get around 30 minutes if he's fine. If he's out, we'll have a different conversation. You can up RHJ and just a couple of other guys like Siakam as well. And Chris Boucher, his minutes just aren't really there when Ibaka misses. But if Ibaka's out, we can... I don't actually know RHJ's price. Let me look really quick. I'm expecting Ibaka to play. That's why I don't have him listed on here, but let me check really quick. Yeah, Jefferson, he is 4,600. That's not a bad price tag, so we can look his way in cash and tournaments if Ibaka happens to miss. But assuming Ibaka plays, I like him. good matchup versus Phoenix. I already talked about it with Siakam, but he's at 1.11 points per minute on the season, 24.4% usage rate. Obviously, those numbers are a little bit better when you take us all off the court, so Ibaka, he'd be a solid option. Norman Powell, I'm not going to go too in-depth here, but he's only in play if Fred VanVleet misses, because when VanVleet's been missing, Powell has been playing very, very well, so look his way if VanVleet happens to miss. Miles Bridges, 5,500. Again, another guy in Charlotte that's going to benefit with no Devontae Graham. He's about 0.95 points per minute with him off the court, and that's up from 0.83. So he gets a pretty nice bump, and he's going to play around 35 minutes. I like the matchup versus, I almost said Phoenix, versus San Antonio. So I think Miles Bridges would be a pretty solid play. Also a pace-up spot, considering they are the slowest team in the league, and they're going up against the 15th. Not going to be a good game environment at all, but there's just a lot of missing pieces for Charlotte, so you can look his way for sure. Daniel Tice going up against Brooklyn. Brooklyn sucks versus big men, so we can look Tice's way. He's been playing pretty well in the second half of the season so far. In Brooklyn, they struggle versus two spots on defense. Point guards, really good versus shooting guards. Small forwards, power forwards, suck versus center, so I think this is a pretty good matchup for Daniel Tice, and he's been over a point per minute on the season. No, I guess, well, he was. Then he dropped down to 0.99, I see. So he's pretty much been a point per minute guy. If he's going to get 27 minutes, you can probably knock him, give him about 25 to 30 fantasy points with upside of more in a really good matchup versus Brooklyn. Derek Favors, again, if you're a part of the Pelicans starting five, you are on the sheet because it's going to be hard for you not to hit value in a 247.5 point over-under, assuming this game stays somewhat close for the majority of this game. But, yeah, Favors, he's been playing pretty well the last two games. Now, I will say I have a bad history with Favors. I think I played him once and it worked out. I mean, I played him more than once, but I think one time I played him, it worked out. Maybe twice. But he struggles for me for some reason. But you got to like the matchup versus Minnesota. They rank pretty much bottom 10 versus every single position on defense. And he's at 1.12 points per minute, low usage rate, but it's because you're playing alongside Drew Holiday, Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson, and Lonzo Ball. Yeah, you're not going to be touching the ball too much. You're pretty much going to have to do most of his work on, tip shot, layups, dunks, whatever. But I think he could get a cheap double-double out of Derek Favors. Trey Lyles, he continues to play very well. He scored 20 points last night. Then the game before that, he had like 40. I'm talking 20 real-life points. Then the game before that, he scored 44 fantasy points. So he's been balling out. And I expect him to get over 30 minutes here again. And, going up against Charlotte, one of the best matchups you can ask for is a big man, I should say. They rank, 27 versus power forwards and 28th versus centers. So, gotta like the matchup for Trey Lyles. If you look at his numbers on the season, 0.85 points per minute. But if you take all those guys off the court, like Jakob Poeltl and LaMarcus Aldridge, he's about 1 point per minute guy. So, Trey Lyles, I think he's a pretty solid option, as with Rudy Gay. Now, funny story with Rudy Gay tonight. I liked him a lot. Then they announced he wasn't starting. They gave Eubanks the start. So I actually ended up pulling Rudy Gay from my lineup at forward. And then I plugged in Dorian Finney-Smith at the same exact price. Because I thought he'd get the minutes were safer and I liked the matchup for Chicago. Ended up being the right move because I ended up finishing first tonight in my GPPs and like second in my cash games. But so the move was Rudy Gay, Dorian Finney-Smith. Finney-Smith ended up scoring 32 fantasy points at 3 to 6% ownership, and he hit 2 threes in the game. And then Rudy Gay finished with 18 fantasy points, and he was like around 30% owned. So usually late night pivots or after lock pivots don't work out for me, but that ended up being a very, very good pivot for me because no one played Finney-Smith, and the chalk lineup was with Rudy Gay. I believe it was, I can't even remember off the top of my head. I want to say, who was point guard last night? I played McCollum. So I ended up going with McCollum at point guard. I wanted to fit in Luka, but I couldn't do it because I had to play like Luka, or it was like my 2v2 was Luka. I want to say like James Ennis or one of the Chicago guys maybe, and then I had McCollum or Kevin Porter, and I felt like Kevin Porter was much safer bet than guys from Chicago or James Ennis, so I ended up going the McCollum and Kevin Porter route, and that ended up being a very good decision on the 2v2 because Luka did not have the best game, which was surprising. He started out hot, didn't finish hot, and Manu McCollum went off. I think he scored 41 real life points, so and I just find it crazy how good McCollum is without Lillard. I mean, like when Lillard's 9,300, I wouldn't play Lillard at 9,300 versus the Magic too often, but also McCollum's right beside him, but I guess I would if McCollum was out. I guess that's not a good comparison because McCollum's playing without Lillard. But man, McCollum is just so good. And the cool thing is, McCollum actually went to the high school like 15 minutes away from me. So that's pretty cool as well. So it was nice winning money with him. But anyway, that was a big side tangent. I think we were talking about Rudy Gay. Yeah, he's 4,700 going up against Charlotte. So the reason I swapped off him because he wasn't starting, so I thought his minutes might get knocked down. They did a little bit. He saw 26 minutes, I believe, which was really not. If he would have got 26, if you told me Rudy Gay was getting 26 minutes, I still probably would have played Rudy Gay over Dorian Finney-Smith. I was just concerned he was going to get coach popped since he wasn't starting and only get like 18 to 20. But, he still got 26. And if he can get 26 minutes versus Charlotte, he should be able to pay off his price tag as a forward/power forward. Because, Charlotte's just they're pretty trashy defensively. Ranking, 15th versus small forwards, 27th versus power forwards. So, Rudy Gay's fine. If you take all those guys off the court for the Spurs, he's over a point per minute, about a 24% usage rate, so he'd be fine. Then we got pretty much the rest of these are scrub Spurs, 76ers, and Hornets. But Alec Burks, again, no Josh Richardson, no Ben Simmons, no Joel Embiid. You can pretty much play all these wing guys for the 76ers and Burks, Furkan, Glenn Robinson. They're all going to get minutes around 20. I'd say all of them are probably going to get around 25 to 30 minutes. And Alec Burks, I like the guy. He had upside in Golden State. It wouldn't surprise me if he popped off. I think one of these guys are going to pop off. Now, the matchup versus the Lakers, if you're a big man going up against the Lakers, it sucks, but you can get away with it if you're a guard/forward. So, going all the way down, the Lakers are the second best defensive team, but they rank 18th versus point guards and 10th versus small forwards. So I think we're going to be fine here. And yes, I know Shake Milton is not on the sheet. You can say what you want in the comment section about it, about me not having him on here, but I just don't think it continues. I mean, if Shake Milton continues to drop 50-point bombs, yes, so be it. I'm not going to be playing him, but I'm just willing to bet on him coming back down to earth eventually. We'll see. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to disagree with the recent form, but I don't know. I'd rather play these scrubby guards and forwards on the 76ers and save some dough and spend up elsewhere. Because I don't really want to pay over $6K for Shake Milton. I mean, that just feels a little bit too gross. But yeah, Alec Burks should get around 25 minutes, 4,400. There's not a big enough sample size for me to even tell you guys the point per minute rates and usage rates with all these guys off the court because there's just really not much of a sample size, and a lot of these guys are new, especially Alec Burks. So I'm not even going to give you a sample size. Just know these guys are all going to get minutes. I mean, they need bodies on the court, and they all have upside. I think one or two hits. I think one of them probably flops. So just depends on who you want to put in your lineup. I like that Korkmaz has the most projected minutes here, around 30, which might make him a bit safer. And we know the guy's got upside. We've seen it a couple times this season, although his numbers are pretty ugly. But again, we had to throw out all these numbers just because, I mean, there's no sample size really with all these guys off the court. I mean, last game we saw a little bit of it, but nothing really can go on too much. So I'm not going to spend too much time talking about them. Just know they're in play because, I mean, they got to play minutes. I mean, they have to. So I like them. Burks, Korkmaz, Patty Mills. He ended up scoring 24 real life points last night. I don't think he did anything else, but I'd take 24 at 3,300. I'll take it all day. And if you take LaMarcus Aldridge off the court, he surprisingly gets one of the biggest boosts on the team, which I find odd because they don't play the same position, but he goes from 0.83 points per minute to 0.95 or 0.96, something like that. So that's actually a pretty big bump and around 23% usage rate. So Patty Mills, yeah, he's going to play a little over 20 minutes. He's near min price. I don't mind it at all. Decent matchup versus Charlotte, so you can look Patty Mills' way. Glenn Robinson, he's near min price. Again, he's going to play 25-ish minutes and doesn't need to do much to hit value. If you can hit a couple threes, get some rebounds, maybe you can throw a couple assists in there, we'll take it at 3,200. Nothing I can really go too in-depth-wise. Caleb Martin. So no Malik Monk, no Devontae Graham. I expect him to get probably around 30 minutes. 27 might be on the low end, but he's the min price, so it's going to be hard for him to not hit value. I mean, look at his numbers on the season, 62 points per minute, but if you take those guys off the court, this number is going to go up a little bit, and the guy's got some upside. So Caleb Martin at min price, going to play around 30 minutes. I expect him to have some ownership, and I think he's a pretty decent value play for sure. Then Jalen McDaniels, his teammate, another guy who's just going to have to get some minutes here. I got him for around 20. It's fine. It's a good matchup versus San Antonio. It's whatever. I mean, they're min price, so it's going to be hard for these guys not to hit value. And that's pretty much going to be it for this player pool breakdown. But before we get out of here, do you want to talk about the sponsor, OverlayDFS.com? Alright guys, if you're new to the channel, this is overlaydfs.com. It's a very, very fun, more casual based DFS website to go play on and sweat the games and really just enjoy. I really like the experience on Overlay. I mean, I don't quit DraftKings just to play Overlay. It's a good supplement to DraftKings, and I think they complement each other very well. So DraftKings, it's more of the complex lineup building, optimal lineups, salary cap driven, all that, max multi-entry stuff. On Overlay, it's like a nice It's like a nice breath of fresh air. So it's just a pick'em based website, kind of like drafting. So this is a snapshot of last night's slate. So one of the categories was McCollum or Whiteside, or I should say matchups. If you thought McCollum was going to outscore Whiteside, you picked McCollum. If you thought Valanciunas was going to outscore John Morant, you picked Valanciunas. It's as simple as that, guys. And if they happen to outscore the other guy, you win that matchup. It's as simple as that. And if you finish in the top 10% of the contest, you win 9 extra money. And I think that's one of the best things about Overlay DFS, because the 9 extra money on DraftKings, like for example, I won my little GPP tournament. It was one of my single entries. I think this one was the 75 pick and roll. I believe it was a $75 entry, and first place was $400. Yeah, I mean that's not even 5x. So I won a single entry on DraftKings, and I didn't 5x my money, although I'm not complaining because I like the flatter payout structure. But on Overlay, finish in the 10%. If you finish in the top 10%, you win 9 extra money. I think that's pretty awesome. I love that payout structure. And yeah, so for example, this is the $22 double deuce contest. Finish in the top 10%, you win $180. Simple as that. 9 extra money. And also, the big thing on Overlay is someone's gonna hit this jackpot soon. If you see above me, if you go 12-0, you win $14,000, a little bit more than $14,000. I think by tomorrow this might be around $15,000. So do not miss out on the chance to win this jackpot at $15,000. Someone's gonna win it. Why not you? I'm hoping it's me, but if it's not one of me, guys, if it's not one of me, I hope it's one of you guys watching this video. And I have noticed a lot more people in the contest for Overlay, so I'm hoping at least that some of you guys watch my videos and trying it out. I know I've gotten a couple of good I've gotten some good feedback from comments and people on my Discord chat enjoying Overlay. So check it out, guys. And they also have some cool challenges like the Slump Buster challenge, or if you lose 20 days in a row, like say you play once a week for 20 weeks or for 20 weeks in a row, you lose every single time, they'll refund every single dollar you deposited. And also they're running a challenge where if you go 0-12, now they're not challenging you to go 0-12, but if you happen to go 0-12, they give you $500. So if you're having the worst day of your life in fantasy, you can get $500, guys. So I like that. They got some good people over there. They pay you out quick. They're legit. Check it out, guys. Overlaydfs.com. And that's gonna be it for this video. If it was helpful, remember to leave a like. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out. Really appreciate it. Support me over on Patreon if you're interested. And in the comments below, like I said, how many fantasy points do you think Zion scores on today's slate? That's going to be it. Enjoy your Tuesday. My 7:30 a.m. class got canceled. Best day of my life. So I'm very excited for that. So I'm going to sleep in a little bit. And yeah, see you in the next video.